What's up, everybody? Here in Chattanooga, going live today with a special guest that's going to teach us how to get the audience that we want through social media to do business with us in a relationship building form. It's going to be great. Now, we're going to get started here in just a couple minutes, but I just want to let you know that you're in the right spot. Hang tight, and we'll get started here in just a couple. Thanks. If you're new coming in right now, we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. If you're looking for how to attract your ideal audience using social media, you're in the right spot. So just hang tight. If anybody's watching live, go ahead and drop your city in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm real curious. Awesome, guys. I got Kyle from Charleston, Jasmine from Phoenix, and Talisa from Dallas, Texas. Thanks for joining, guys. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're letting some more folks join in. Sometimes the lives take a couple minutes to get running, so. A couple of hometown folks, Catherine and Amy, thanks for coming. Hey, folks, if you're having a hard time with the link through Eventbrite, the event's also posted on Facebook with the KWYP Chattanooga page. If you're having a tough time, just go to that on Facebook. We're streaming there. It's also on YouTube as well. About another minute, we'll get started, okay? All right, folks, we're going to get started. Thanks for joining. You are here with us live with the KWYP chapter in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are proud to present a special guest today. It's gonna be great for everybody. What I'd like to ask you though, and you can filter in some comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're finding us, throw in the comment answer to a couple questions. I'm curious if anybody has ever bought online leads. And if you have bought online leads, did you use a social media platform like a Facebook, Instagram, or whatever to get that information? So throw some answers in the comments real quick and let me know where you're at. And my guess is for online leads is that you most likely didn't know these people, right? Before you got their information, before you captured their info. It's a little bit of a colder setup, right? You're not quite warm relationally for them to be able to trust your business, trust you with their business. Now, if I told you that there was a way that you could use social media without spending any money whatsoever to attract the ideal audience that you want to work with, like your ideal client that you want to work with, would that be something that you'd be interested in, right? Instead of spending a bunch of money to drive name, phone number, and email address leads that are super cold to super warm, relationship-based contacts into your database that are interested in doing business with you specifically. That's the way to go, right? So we've got a special guest here today. She is the CEO of Action Forward. She's especially known for her content, accelerating keynotes, and trainings designed for entrepreneurs to dominate social media by getting on video. She shared the stage with thought leaders like Brendon Burchard, Gary Vaynerchuk, and others. With a collective following of over 500,000 followers, Giselle Ugarte is our guest today. She's been recognized by TikTok as one of the top 100 women to watch in 2021, has been featured in Adweek, Business Insider, and Social Media Examiner for her work. So without further ado, welcome to our virtual stage here, Giselle Ugarte.
Hi, friend. It's so good to see you.
What's up, Giselle? Great to see you.
Let's get this party started. If you're here this morning, just know that everybody who is not is seriously missing out. And so I really hope that we serve you today. We get you excited today. We help you to save a lot of time, energy, and money today. And that you will leave this conversation, whether you're here for a few minutes or the whole hour-ish that we're going to be here, that you will let everybody know, like, hey, you missed something really, really awesome. So I know that Robert asked earlier for you to do this, but if you're just popping in, please let me know who you are and where you are from inside of the comments so that I am able to see. But I'm so happy to be here. And I'm also so honored to be your coach, Robert. And I can't wait to kick off a new program with you today.
Yeah, we're going to definitely talk more about that in a little bit. And I'm super excited for you, for myself, and for how that's going to change realtors' lives and businesses across the country for sure. I'd like to just kind of get started with some questions. So, the name of your company is Action Forward. How did you come up with that name, and kind of what drove that decision?
Oh, this is one of my favorite moments to talk about. So I was actually getting certified as a high performance coach with Brendon Burchard. And during that time, we actually went through a lot of questions. I never set out to be a coach, by the way. I simply went to this certification hoping to learn how to ask better questions so that I could be a better leader for my team. And he asked a question that was so simple, yet for some reason it struck me in a certain way. And that was simply that when you feel stuck, what is the next action forward thing that you could do? And the key word there is forward. And that struck me because I realized in that moment, how often do we feel like we have just had a day where we are back to back to back to back to back to back to back, and you got nothing done? Or how often do you feel like you have just totally filled up your day with busyness, yet when you really think about it, you haven't been productive? Or you find yourself feeling exhausted and burnt out, but when you look down at the floor, or you look at the last week or the last month or the last year, you're like, what the fuck have I even done? By the way, I say fuck sometimes. Don't be offended, but it's just one of my favorite words. And so if you ever felt that way where you're like, oh my God, I am chasing all of these shiny balls, I'm putting out all of these fires, yet why have I not moved? And so what I hoped to be able to bring to my consultancy and to my coaching was to give you tools and tips, not to, for example, post all the time everywhere and as much as possible, but to be more intentional about where you're going, who you're spending time with, and the message that you're sharing with the world, so that way you can have more of that time and you're actually doing things that push you forward and propel you forward. And how wonderful it is to be able to look back on that versus to continue to stay in the exact same place, hitting your head against the wall.
For sure. I totally get that. I mean, so your specialty is social media, obviously, and a big push in the industry lately is video. How, tell me a little bit maybe about what makes your approach to social media different than kind of the, friend 5 people a day and go live once a week and, comment on 15 people's posts and all that stuff. Can you give me an idea what your approach and how it's different?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, first of all, it goes to even just this whole idea of video. I will get on calls with people and they're like, well, I guess I have to get on the bandwagon, or, well, I guess video is this trend, or it's not going away. And it's like, hold on a second. If you think that video is a trend, you're missing the point entirely. And one thing that really scares me whenever I go to real estate workshops and conferences is that you'll have a lot of supposed coaches telling you to do something and you're simply following orders and not asking the why, or why for me, or why right now. And with video, that's kind of part of it, especially when you follow people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who are legitimately telling you to post every single fucking day, every single fucking hour, every single platform. And it's like, okay, but wait a minute, hold on. Why? And so where I want to first start is just the whole concept of video. Video is not a trend. Video is simply allowing for you to scale the human experience, where you could go knock on 100 doors and you could make 100 phone calls. And I'm not saying that those aren't effective. Anything that you put energy towards and are consistent about will likely be effective. But when it comes to video, here's the very cool thing. I have no idea how many people are going to be watching this video, whether you're here right now or you're watching it later. But how cool that as of right now, by simply looking into my camera lens and taking an hour of my time, I am able to make eye contact with every single one of you simultaneously, as if we were having a one-on-one conversation. You might watch this tomorrow. You might watch this a week from now. Maybe you'll be watching this 6 months or 6 years from now saying, remember when? But all it took was just this energy of this very moment. And that will continue to live for me for as long as this video exists. And especially if it gets posted or trimmed or cut up and put in other places. And it's building my credibility. But most importantly, it's allowing for you to get a sense of what I'm actually like in person. So if for you, you think that video is a different species, if you've ever uttered the words, oh, if I could just get them in person, or, oh my God, I'm so much better in person. You probably are better in person because you are not yet comfortable with this device because you treat it like it's a totally different species. And as of right now, it's making your heart have palpitations and maybe you get a little sweaty or you turn red, and that's totally fine. But let me help shift your mindset for a moment. And rather than thinking of it as you are looking at a piece of plastic, like even right now, for example, I am picturing Robert in my head as I'm looking at this piece of plastic, even though, yes, it is a little strange that your picture is actually down there. But this is practice. And this is a lot of time thinking about, who am I talking to? So that's the other piece of it. We went and talked about the why video. Why should I post here? Why should I post all the time? Here's something that a lot of people fail to recognize. Your goals are different from my goals, are different from Robert's goals, are different from Patrick's goals. What's up, my brother? Good to see you. And so with that, you should be posting different kinds of videos on different platforms for different reasons. Because there are some people who, for you, you're sick of wasting money and putting it in the trash can. You want to double your production. You want to triple your production so badly. Somebody else might say, Giselle, I don't want to sell another fucking house. I just want to focus on growing my team and being a mentor so that I can work on the business rather than in the business. Some people are like, you know what? I love this, but I kind of want to add coaching to my repertoire. Or, you know what? I'm a super creative person. There's a part of me that feels like I could really create a new stream of revenue by being a content creator. Or maybe you want to talk about investments or Airbnbs. All of those different goals are awesome, but they take totally different strategies, mindsets, and content types. And so, one of my favorite examples to use is, y'all ever heard of a marketing report in your industry?
Anybody heard of a marketing report?
Or the marketing updates? Or when people post how many houses you've sold and how many houses are on the market? You know, there's this whole misconception of, well, I post these updates because everybody else does it. Or I post these updates because someone told me to do it. Did you ever think to ask why that is? Or what that would mean for your client? Because the reality is that for a lot of you who do that, and my favorite are the ones who are like, well, I want to make it unique by doing it from like a coffee shop or something. Like, hold on a second. You need to think about what actually matters to the person who I'm talking to. To somebody who you're thinking about growing your team, they would want to know, well, wait a minute, what resources are you putting into place to make sure that your agents are keeping their productivity high? For somebody who they're thinking about selling their house, they don't care about how many houses you've sold. They just want to know if you can sell their house. And if you can give them any advice about risks associated with potentially selling their house before they have a new one, and especially if they have a family of 4. And so it's learning how to speak the language of who you're talking. It's literally reading the room. It's literally reading the room. If you were to go speak to a bunch of third graders about real estate, that conversation would sound very different than a conversation with, say, the CEO of your company. And the level of words that you would use, the vocabulary that you would use, you wouldn't say things like low inventory. You would explain what that actually means. You'd break it down. And so those little things will ultimately help you, and hopefully to help humanize the experience that is creating video, and that will hopefully save you a shit ton of time and energy when you learn to use it consistently in your routine. And that doesn't mean every single day. Although if you're up to that capacity, great. But if you're not doing any video at all, let's get you to start using stories, which, by the way, disappear in 24 hours. So if you hate yourself on video, great, disappears. Or let's get you to do one video a week. Let's get you to start using FaceTime. Let's get you to start using BombBomb for one-to-one video. Let's get you to start sending DMs where rather than typing it out, you click the button and share a video. So that way you get more comfortable and hopefully get less sweaty in the process too.
Yeah, so 2 quick things on that. One, I can definitely attest to being on camera makes you sweaty and nervous and uptight with shallow breathing. But secondly, what I'd like to maybe poke around that a little bit more and ask you, how would you advise a real estate agent specifically to determine what their audience can be, or what maybe their audience should be, beyond maybe just who who do I want to sell only $1 million houses? How do you kind of narrow that topic down a little bit and really hone in on specifically location, different life events, things like that? How would you advise to do that, either using social media generally or video?
A couple of different things there. The first is something that you and I talk about, and that you're actually really good at this. Although we need to get you implementing, and that is, I always say Jeopardy, which means that the answer is the question. So if you're wanting to appeal to a certain demographic, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what types of questions am I currently getting from this demographic? Or if you're attempting to level up or move to another city, what types of questions would they have? And if you're drawing a total blank here, then something that you could do is, there's a website called Answer the Public, for example. And all you have to do is type in a topic, and then you can see what real people are actually searching about that topic. So maybe it's something as simple as Chattanooga real estate, or it might be something like, luxury homes or Airbnb, but you can at least start seeing what people are looking for. And then from there, hopefully get some inspiration. Something that a lot of real estate agents, or actually this is just professionals in general, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs as well, that the question that you forget to answer: who are you? What do you do? What is it like to work with you? Who do you serve? Those are often forgotten. And there's no post or video or any type of content whatsoever that could tell me that. And the easiest low hanging fruit is, how do we make that apparent on your profile? How do we make that apparent in your bio? How do we make that apparent on your website? Because here's the thing. My mentor says the phrase frequently, which is that advertising is a luxury, marketing is a necessity. Let me say that again. Advertising is a luxury, marketing is a necessity. Before you throw money at buying leads or buying ads or buying, YouTube, OTT, radio, blah, 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 all of those mediums are extremely effective. Okay. It takes the average person, get this, 21 to 24 touch points to make a buying decision. That means they need to see you or hear you or feel you or hear your name 21 to 24 times before they'll actually reach out to you. But the reality is that if you put that money purely to the frequency of advertising, then you're going to be missing out. Why? Because nowadays, even if someone you trust gives you a referral to somebody who you should reach out to, for example, let's say that Selena was to say, oh my gosh, you have to meet Robert. He is the best real estate agent in Chattanooga. Here's his phone number, whatever. And by the way, who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? What is it like to work with you? Were the questions. So here's the thing. One, if someone was to share you, more often than not, they're not actually sharing your phone number. They're sharing a link. They're sharing a link to your Facebook page or your website or your Instagram or a specific video if you have it. And if they're not, then the instinct is not, well, let me call him. The instinct is, well, maybe I'll text him, but actually let me look him up on Instagram. Let me look him up on Google. Let me see what I can find. If there's not a lot of information, and if we're only getting 1 to 2 touch points in that session, then that transaction is yours to lose. If they look you up and they see your picture, they see your stories, they see a video and then another video and then another video, and oh my God, I've been binge watching this content and now I feel like we're best friends, and you yourself have fed into them wanting to learn more about you, then by the time they do reach out to you, that sale is yours and yours to lose, because they already in their head have an idea of what you're like. And if the person who you are on video or in content is different than what they get, then that is where you lose the client. That is where you lose that potential. You need to be just the same, if not even better in person, for them to want to work with you. And by better, I don't mean more perfect, because that's also where a lot of people set themselves up for failure. Is you have this feed and all you see is sold, 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 number one, top producer, blah, 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 blah. Look what I did. Congratulations. And you fail to recognize that actually this market is really tough. It is really, really tough. Business is great, but that doesn't make it any easier. So by sharing what the process is actually like, how many homes you can expect to go see, how many offers you can expect, what it's like to price, how much house you can actually afford realistically, letting them know that you're not just a producer, but you're a problem solver, then that is also going to paint a very accurate picture. Whenever I see some filtered bullshit, like immediately I check out. If you get on a Zoom call with me and I see you with a fake background or a blur, I will immediately call you out and tell you to take it off. And Robert knows, because he's seen me do it before with people. Like right then and there, you're expecting for someone to be vulnerable with you. You're expecting for someone to share their biggest secret, which is how much money they have and what they can afford. And you're not willing to show who you really are. Like that right there, like that's the mindset shift. Mind shit. Yeah, it can be a mind fuckery of sorts. That's the mindset shift that you need to make so that you can be fully present in each piece of that interaction. I know I went off for a little bit while there, but I hope that.
No, that's, I mean, that's,
What was even the question? I don't even.
I don't know. I got a list here. It's in here somewhere. So,
I don't even remember what it was. And if you're still here, let me know that you're awake. Let me know that you're alive. Just say heard in the comments.
What I heard you say a couple times is a word that's being thrown around all over the place, as if it's like, the golden, like the silver bullet to social media, and that's authenticity. I find that you see a lot of people in every industry, but in real estate as well, that are really interested in making themselves look amazing. And you hit on this a couple times. One of the things that really hit me, and it was during one of our coaching calls, was, messing up and acknowledging your mess up, keep going, still deliver the message. And a couple of times that's been some of the most relatable videos that I've ever done. And maybe can you speak to that a little more?
Yeah. Even right there where you just saw me mess up a word and I was in the middle of mind shift and mind fuckery and I mixed two words together.
Yeah.
I didn't say, oh my God, hold on, Robert, can you start this whole video again? I need to hold on. Let me go back really quick. It was
right.
You just keep on going.
Keep going.
Or even think about if you've ever watched Saturday Night Live. The funniest moments are when you see the actors break character and or start laughing at their own jokes. You know what 100%. I mean? Like they don't stop. They just keep on going. And so it goes back to, again, if my client was in my office, rather than if my client was watching this video, my client was in my office, what would I do? So for example, if your potential client walked into the office and they said, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Chattanooga. What are your favorite neighborhoods in Chattanooga? You wouldn't run a Google search to tell them. You wouldn't have a script and go, hold on a second, let me just check what I wrote down earlier. You would just know.
Right.
And if you didn't, you'd be like, hold on, let me think about this for a second. And maybe you would even ask a follow-up question like, well, what does best neighborhood mean to you? Is it best schools? Is it that you want to be downtown? Is it that you want to be by the water? You would have like this actual and then you would think about it. Like, and you know what? I can think of two, but I can't even think of a third one, to be honest, because these are just my favorite two. You would just simply answer the question. Or maybe they ask you something that you don't know the answer to. Like, oh my God, do I need a certain permit to build in this particular neighborhood? I honestly don't know the answer for that one, but let me check for you. Or let me text my colleague and find out. You know what I mean? Like, we have this idea that like we need to be reading a certain script. The other day, as Selena reminded us of the questions that I came up with, I challenged one of the realtors who I was talking to on Clubhouse, not a client, but I challenged her to make a video sharing like, who are you and what do you do and what is it like to work with you? And I kid you not, she made the video and I was so proud of her. She used a teleprompter on her phone. And I have no issue with teleprompter, except that most of you are horrible at it. Horrible. Like I can see your eyes moving and your soul fully leaves your body. So unless you are professionally trained in teleprompter, what is the point? But also, you can't tell me what it's like to work with you without a script. Like you can't tell me what it's like to work with you without a script. You can't tell me without certainty what the process is like to work with you. Like, I'm not asking you to tell me a list of every single neighborhood or every single ice cream spot in your city. I'm just simply saying, like, who are you? What do you do? And what is it like to work with you? And you're having to look at a script to tell me your name, to tell me you're a real estate agent, and to tell me that we're going to sit down for 30 minutes and you're going to have me sign a CMA. Like, what? That we overthink it way too much. And I really just want you to think about it as a phone call, as a FaceTime call, as a Zoom conversation, as your client is interviewing you and taking you to lunch and asking you these basic questions. Am I saying that you're not allowed to film something more than once? No, you totally can. But I would make the suggestion that if you're going to film a video, set a time limit period, because otherwise you're going to do 30 different takes and they're all going to look exactly the same, and you're probably going to get worse as you go because you're stuck on the things that don't actually matter. You're stuck on things that I don't even notice. Like, I didn't even notice the pimple on your head, or that your hair was out of place, or that you said something wrong. Like, I didn't. So and that's also an indication of that you're just not there yet. If you are continuing to focus on the you, then you can't focus on the you. Like, there's just no way. You know the person who, when they're in person with you, when they're not paying attention to you. You can see when their eyes glaze over. You can see when they're looking to see who else is at the party and they're not actually listening to you. That's the exact same feeling that you give when you're creating a video and you're only focused on self and you're only focused on words. And so Talisa says, I'm guilty of the teleprompter. I know what I'm going to say. I'm just trying to make sure I hit all the points. So even that, here's the thing. You are not the encyclopedia of real estate. If anything, leave people wanting more. If there is something that maybe it is a law or a quote that you need to get it just so, then I would challenge you to do the video as is. And if you happen to have a little piece of paper with notes, then you can use the notes. People who are on the news do this all the time. I filmed a course today because our real estate content accelerator kicks off today. Deadline is Tuesday, by the way. And in it, I went through a video checklist. I don't have that checklist memorized, not even a little bit. And so I did refer to my checklist, but I went through the checklist still putting my person first. I was referring to it, but I wasn't married to it. When you're married to it, we lose you. If people wanted the encyclopedia of real estate, they would Google it or they'd go to Zillow. And we need you to set yourself apart from Zillow. We need you to stop thinking that being an expert of real estate means knowing actually absolutely everything about real estate. And truly, it's what do you know right now and how can you make that important to me? So that's where I would say get rid of the teleprompter. And also, don't feel like you need to say everything. Don't give me 27 reasons to move to Chattanooga. Just give me 3. And then if you want to do a part 2, you can give me 3 more. This thought like we need to give every single point. We don't. Leave them wanting more. If anything, allow for them to fill in the blanks. Do you have some things that you want to fill in here? Then drop it in the comments below. But this whole idea of I need to get absolutely everything, get out of that. And if you're going to do teleprompter, again, just make sure that you are truly trained in teleprompter. Like, you really, no one would be able to tell.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. So just a couple more questions real quick. One is, we went over authenticity a little bit. As far as determining what to post, whether it's video, whether it's a story with a quote, how do you determine, we hear the phrase like content pillars. Like, can you expand on that phrase a little bit, what it means, and maybe how a real estate agent might be able to implement that kind of bird's eye view strategy?
The way that I describe content pillars to my real estate clients is, how are we showing the portfolio that is you? And by that, I don't mean all of your listings. I mean the portfolio of who you are as a person. And so, in the same way that, say, a brokerage might have all of their listings, and you can see, all right, here are the rentals, and here are the single family, and here are the multifamily. Also, here are our agents. Here's our team. Here's our story. All right, how do we think of you as the brokerage? How do we think of you as the property? What are the things that make you unique as a real estate agent? And I want you to write this down right now. For my program, I give you a piece of paper, and at the top, in big bolds, it's my uniques. And that's a piece of paper that you keep with you for the full 5 weeks of the program. And it is because I want you to step into your power more and more each week, realizing what's unique about you. We think that unique, or in order to stand out, that we have to be the loudest or the fastest or the first or the best. And it's really not that. I spoke about this actually this morning on my Instagram, which is that yesterday I had 3 different calls with three different people, and each of them had the exact same insecurity. And for each of them, that insecurity was that each of them had an accent. Each of them, it was that English was their second language. And it was funny because, well, first of all, if I hear you have an accent, then my thought is, wow, you know another language. Most people in this country cannot speak another language. So, and also, right. And also, research shows that people who can speak more than one language are more intelligent people. So they're feeling dumb because they can't speak perfect English. And yet, for one of them in particular, I go, okay, well, talk to me. Do your clients all speak perfect English? And she goes, no, half of them speak Spanish. Go, oh, really? What about the other half? She goes, well, most of them, they're from India, or they're from Russia, or they're like, and she starts listing off all these countries. And I go, oh, so then the other half, most of them don't speak English as a first language either. She goes, no. And I go, so what you're telling me is that the moment that you open your mouth, they feel like home with you. You're telling me that the thing that you're most insecure about is actually the reason why they chose you. Even with Robert, I know that I can say this with certainty. There are people who are brand new to real estate, and they're like, oh, I'm so inexperienced. I don't want anybody to know. And for me, I've worked with realtors for more than 5 years, but developed programming specific for realtors just in the last year. And I remember one of the first conversations, you felt refreshed when I told you that my programming was not specific to realtors. Now I make programming just for real estate agents, but you were actually excited that I was not an exclusive real estate coach at the time. You were looking for someone who had a fresh perspective.
Yep,
if you're
sure.
brand new, there's someone who's looking for somebody who's hungry. There are people who are perhaps burned by people in this industry, or think that real estate agents are liars. And so they want someone who's fresh and brand new. If you've been doing this for a while, there's somebody who wants somebody who's experienced. If you are nervous about your color or your gender, there's someone, because the new homeowner does not look the same, people. The homeowner in general, they're looking for someone who looks like you, talks like you, votes like you, loves like you. And so it's so very important that you start to embrace, okay, what are the things that make me unique? Is it that I'm a mom of 4? Is it that I don't have kids? Is it that you live downtown? Is it that you live in the suburbs? Is it that you were born and raised here? Is it that you decided to make this your forever home? Is it that you're recently divorced, or you work with a lot of divorced couples? Is it that you have an accent? All of the different things, and usually they're the things that you're most insecure about, are actually the reasons for why somebody would want to choose you. And so it's very important that you start to even just keep track of what those things are. Even pay attention to when your client says, well, I chose you because. Why? Fill in the blank. Pay less attention to the ones who say, I didn't choose you because, and more to the why did they choose you. Are there going to be people who don't choose you because of those things? Yes. And that's when you have to look at yourself and go, okay, was this a constructive note, or are these just not my people? Is this someone who I would have to continuously try to impress or be something that I'm not, because they will never appreciate me?
Yeah. So going back to the whole essence of this chat we're having is attracting the audience that you want to do business with, right? And if they
Absolutely.
don't know the real you, then then you're just shooting fish in a barrel again, just like you would be on uh, Facebook buying ads or whatever. Is you just got a bunch of people you don't know versus the relationships where they already know you. They're gonna just say, "Hey, I want to give you my business," versus, "Yeah, I guess I'm willing to submit my name, address, and phone number because you're giving me a free buyer's guide." Um, that seems super powerful compared to the alternative, especially considering you don't need to spend money to be able to do it. You mentioned a couple things about particularly the people that you had calls with yesterday where they were uh, um, intimidated by the fact that they had an accent. What are some of the other hurdles that get in that maybe realtors or just people you coach get in the way of them being productive in social media and having a real consistent presence and kind of attracting that client that they want?
There's always a glass box that you put yourself in. Always. And let me just say, I know this because I've been there. So, a little bit about my background. My career accidentally started about 10 years ago when no one would hire me in the world of entertainment news, and someone gave me the advice to learn how to do everything. And so I began putting videos up on YouTube, thinking that no one would see it. And as it turns out, I found these extraordinarily average teenagers who had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of subscribers, and nobody was talking about it. And, you know, when I first looked at their channels and their videos, my thought wasn't, oh my God, they have all of these subscribers. How cool. Instead, it was, oh my God, how do they have all of these subscribers? They're not even special. Their video equipment is horrible. They're not wearing any makeup. They're rambling. They're not polished. Like their room is messy. This is disgusting. Well, what I didn't realize then, and it took me years to figure out, is that first of all, none of that shit matters. I was thinking, oh, there's no way that people could be subscribing to this. They must have hacked an algorithm. It must be the time of day that they're posting. It must be the title of their videos. It must be how often they're posting. And as it turns out, there was no consistency with that. Some of y'all will listen to me talk for an hour and it's like you didn't even hear anything when you go, but what hashtag should I use? Or I'm afraid to post because I don't know what hashtags I should be using. Y'all, if you think hashtags are the reason why your content's not being seen, hashtags aren't the problem. And so what I learned over time is that the people who are thinking shit and talking shit are usually the people who aren't doing shit. Once I started to actually upload videos, which sucked, by the way, you can go look at my YouTube channel. My voice is like 8 octaves higher. I am caked with makeup. Even when I say I'm not wearing makeup, I'm wearing no makeup. It took years upon years of unlearning. And once I started to do it and realize how hard it was and realize how difficult it is not to show up with full hair and makeup, but to actually unlearn this irrational idea of perfection in my head, that's when I stopped talking smack because I realized that the people who are active are actually going to respect and appreciate what you're doing, and they don't have enough time to scrutinize every little nitpicky detail. If you are scrutinizing every little nitpicky detail, then typically that's when you need to go look in the mirror. And that's when you have an issue with yourself, whether it's someone's weight or how somebody looks or how somebody sounds. If you're not doing it, then you don't have permission to make a comment about it. The Theodore Roosevelt quote about the man in the arena, go look it up. Theodore Roosevelt, the man in the arena, made famous by Brene Brown. But ultimately, it's not the critic who counts. It's the person who's fighting in the arena. And so all of that is to say, be so very careful of the glass boxes that you have. Be so very careful when you hear yourself saying, well, I feel like I'm supposed to blank. Or, well, but so-and-so is doing this, so I thought that I had to blank. Be careful when you tell yourself that. Because again, it goes back to, okay, but are you doing it because it's true to who you are and it makes sense for what you are and what you want to do? Or are you doing it because you think you're supposed to do that? figure out, for a lot of people, you've put glass boxes because you're afraid of what your family will think of you. You're afraid of what your industry will think of you. You are afraid of what you will think of you. And long story longer, for me, I never wanted to be a YouTube star. So if you go to look at my YouTube channel, I don't even think I ever broke 10,000 subscribers, and I haven't put up a video in 6 years. And you'll see that there was no consistency because I was so caught up in that perfection loop. Who knows what kind of a millionaire I would have been had I kept going. However, at the same time, I feel like I probably would have burnt out because I was continuously trying to be something that I wasn't. However, what I did do was I used YouTube to get to my end goal. For me, I had an objective. I wanted to be on television. I became one of the first real life faces of CoverGirl Cosmetics. I think you can still see my face on Proactive Vending Machines. And I was the youngest correspondent on Australia's #1 breakfast program, The Today Show. And I would satellite in from California. And I made that shit happen. For you, you really need to be so very careful when you get on a platform. Ask yourself, what am I doing here? What is my goal here? Is it to sell more houses? Is it to gain confidence? Is it to boost my thought leadership? Is it to be an example to my team? A lot of you are still continuing to post for validation. When you don't have a strategy, you're only posting for validation. You're posting to impress your mom or your ex-boyfriend or your old boss, rather than the person who is actually going to boost cash flow in your business and get you to actually grow as a professional, and most importantly, as a person. And so start figuring out, okay, where am I putting question marks? Where am I hiding behind status or job title or money or makeup or self? The question that I asked at a recent conversation in Boston was, are you wearing the clothes or are the clothes wearing you?
Ooh, I like that.
Are you wearing the clothes or are the clothes wearing you? Are you wearing that black blazer because you actually like it and it makes you feel good? Or are you doing it because that's what you thought you were supposed to do and you think that it will impress the person who you're with? Are you wearing it or is it wearing you? And that can be metaphorically as well. When you're not hitting that connection, it's because you're unsure of yourself. And you need to step into your outfit, your job title, your name with confidence. A lot of you, when you introduce yourself, there's a question mark at the end, or there's a comma, or a kinda, or a stutter, or a just. If you can't even say your own name with confidence, let alone your job title or your brokerage, we need to slow it down and start there with that first impression. Because if you don't know if you would buy yourself, yeah, I probably wouldn't buy you either.
Gotcha. What I hear some of what you say is it's way more about the action and consistency and authenticity than it is about worrying about, do I have the best camera? Like, is the micro, like, in my realtor mind, and maybe some of the people behind me here in the room and joining us online are thinking, but I don't have like the camera and I don't have a microphone and I can't have a videographer follow me around and do Gary Vaynerchuk style. I think it's important to reinforce just doing the work, and it's going to become fun. It's going to be uncomfortable at first. I can speak to that firsthand, and I'm sure you would agree. But doing the work, and then automatically through authenticity, regardless of whether you're shooting with the back of your phone. I know you say that's your favorite camera.
If you have this, who has this? Like, in the chat, let me know. Do you own one of these or a variation of it? This is an iPhone. Maybe you don't have an iPhone, but you have a plastic phone of sorts with the camera. If you are in the room behind Robert, like, put it in the air, wave it like you just don't care to let me know that you're listening and that you have one. Probably, thank you very much. The man in the peach, like, it's within reach. If you have one of these, that truly is all you need. And in fact, that, what you just said, all those different excuses, when this whole Panini began almost 2 years ago, those were the excuses that I heard the most. And at the time, I was working with an agency where I did have access to a production team and any equipment that I could want, like the best that money could buy. And so I challenged myself and I said, okay, fine. I'm going to drop this. I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to do it all by myself. And I'm only going to use this. And that's exactly what I did to prove the point. And even to this day, that still, for the most part, it's really hard for me to use anything but that because I love it so much. You look at the content on your phone, and the reality is that that's the future of content. That's where TikTok put the sledgehammer on all social media. Like, y'all notice that Instagram's having an identity crisis lately.
Yep.
They're like, we want to be Snapchat, but also Instagram, but also TikTok. Like, they're trying to do all the things. And it is because, TikTok really helped to lift the veil and made it at the forefront that we want to create as real of a human experience as we can. And that we understand that content today is meant to be created and or consumed using this. This is my favorite camera. My arm is my favorite tripod. My favorite lighting is my window. Okay. Like all those professional lights, when you see the ring lights the influencers use, that is meant to mimic daylight any time of day. The reason why it looks great, it's supposed to mimic the sun. So if you have something that can hold a phone, if you have a phone and if you have a window, that is truly all that you need. If you want to level up a little bit, you absolutely can. And I have on my website a Get the Fuck on Video equipment guide where I share some of my favorite tools, whether it is a little mini microphone or a nicer camera. But what I hate seeing, and I just had a call the other day with this woman from Chicago, and she was like, well, if I coach with you, is that going to interrupt everything that I'm doing? And I went and looked at her profile and I'm like, well, let's just see what you're doing. Like, let's just see if it's really conflicting. And I'm like, girl, you haven't posted in 6 months. What do you mean? Am I interrupting what you're doing? And then she turns around her computer and she's like, well, but I have this whole studio and I have this really nice microphone and this ring light and whatever. And I'm like, you're not using it. Like, what do you mean? You're not using that, let alone this. So how am I ruining anything? And so when you're using those excuses, it's really just you looking for the excuse. And at this point, how awesome it is that you don't have to wait for a production team or equipment or an opportunity to be interviewed on TV. Like, that used to be what you needed back in the day. You don't need that anymore. Like, how cool that you can answer a question and on the spot. How cool that you can check in with your clients every single day using this. I challenge you today. Here's a little challenge, a little homework, and let me know how it goes. Robert, you've done this, so this isn't anything that you haven't done, and you don't love the camera, but you're learning to. I challenge you today to reach out to 5 clients and or leads, and rather than just sending a text or making a phone call, I want you to send a video. And you can do this over Facebook Messenger. You can do this over Instagram Messenger. And the easiest thing you could do, you could give a happy birthday. You could give a thank you. You could give a shout out to something that they have done recently that you noticed and acknowledged. It will be so much more memorable when they get a video versus you just sending a text or not saying anything at all. It will also work in your favor because all of these different platforms pay attention to interactions and engagement. If they see you going back and forth, and if they're seeing, something like video inside of Messenger, guess who's going to be top of mind and recommended the next time that you post to your page? You are. So think about 5 people who you could reach out to today. Again, is it a happy birthday? Is it a thank you? Is it, oh my goodness, I saw your Instagram story about that mess that you had with your kid. I'm so sorry that happened to you, but hey, you know what? That exact same thing happened to me, and just know that you aren't alone. Or, oh my God, I was so sorry to hear about your dog, and I just wanted to let you know that I was thinking of you. And then they can see the expression on your face versus just you being, I'm so sorry, happy birthday, and then it goes. So start getting into the habit of doing that and on a consistent basis so that you can get more comfortable. Don't use filters. Do not use filters. I know that there are some people who are like, wait, what? I can't use a filter? The filters are fucking you up. The filters are making you think that you look different than you actually do. And then they're getting you even more self-conscious when you're on a video that doesn't have the filters. They're getting you even more self-conscious for like, but wait a minute, I look in the mirror and it's different. Like, we need to get you to unlearn even the filters, because that's getting in your own way in your own head as well.
That's awesome. So we're up against time, and so I really appreciate you. I want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what you do, coaching wise, and then what you've got coming up starting today, and let everybody in the room know, and everybody that's watching online and may watch us in the future. Tell us a little bit about the program you've got specifically for real estate agents.
Absolutely. So you'll see my Instagram username right here. It would mean so much if you drop me a follow, but more so than that, like, I don't really give a shit about the follow. My favorite way that you can say thank you is to show me your receipts. And by that, I don't mean buying my products, although again, if you want to do that, cool. It's your receipts of implementation. I want you to say, hey, Giselle, I made a video. Or, hey, you know what? I sent out those 5 videos that you asked me to, and this was the response that I got. Or, thank you so much for helping me to get out of my head and get out of my own way. I finally learned to embrace something, or the light bulb went off. If you share this moment, that's a huge thank you to Robert, because this is his first time doing something like this. And like, I know how nervous you were, and you did a great job, and I'm so fucking proud of you. And so sharing this and making sure to tag him to encourage him to do more video, like, please do that. But we do have a brand new content accelerating program that kicks off today. The deadline to register is actually Tuesday. And if you slide into my DMs on Instagram, you'll meet my little bot Panda, who will give you the information to either schedule a call with me, or if you just go to GiselleUgarte.com/sign up, then you can sign up. And it's 5 weeks of kick-ass programming where not only am I teaching you how to capture each piece of the transaction, but I'm teaching you how to look at yourself as a property, and teaching you how to list yourself, show yourself, celebrate your closings and milestones, so that you're posting with intention. It's strategic. And I did, as we were talking, make a special promo code. So if you go straight to GiselleUgarte.com/sign up, and if you do sign up today, you can use the promo code KWRE and get 10% off. As I said, today we have a little pre-welcome call. Technically, it doesn't start until Wednesday, and the deadline to absolutely register is Tuesday. But if you sign up today, and if you use KWRE at GiselleUgarte.com/sign up, then you can get 10% off of the 5-week program, which Robert will be taking as well.
Yeah, so y'all get ready.
Yes.
So just to close this out, I want to thank you, Giselle. I think you're awesome. Your strategy is awesome. It's definitely action forward. It's going to help everybody in the room, and it's going to help everybody that was watching live. We don't have time for Q&A, but what I would encourage people to do is post questions in the comments, and I'll be sure Giselle gets to see those and encourage the interaction there.
And slide into my DMs too.
Yeah, slide into Giselle's DMs. One thing I want to mention too, this is kind of I don't want to say the launch, but kind of the beginning of a lot more of these style interview learning. We're going to bring in a lot of great leaders in this space that can help people in this office and people involved with Keller Williams Young Professionals across the country, here in Chattanooga and across the country. So if you're interested in KWYP locally, just slide into my DMs, comment, let me know, or I'm in the office, come say hi. And then if you are in another city, you happen to see this, I'm happy to put you in touch with the market center that's close to you. And anyways, thanks, Giselle. You're awesome. And we'll do it again.
Hell yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.